It's Amachu. Welcome to Divergence SMP. Last time I cleared out an ocean monument and thought, someday I'd like to make a guardian farm here. Well, I think that time has come sooner than expected. I blocked off the 25 spawning locations for the monument, and I'll show you how I did that in a bit. Then I made this big tank and thought eventually someday when I get around to it, I'll drain it out. Well, thanks to Jewel, it's done. She went after this and emptied the whole thing in a day, and died to drown many times in the process. I can't let Jewel's sacrifice be in vain. I think I better get into making this guardian farm right away. Alright, first of all, spawn-proofing this thing. You really can't recognize this as an ocean monument at this point, but any ocean monument has 25 specific locations where mobs can spawn. That's at least how it works in Bedrock Edition. The purplish wool marks all of those spawning spots. The way I found them required that I first find the northwest corner of the monument. So you could use a locator map to point you in the right direction. You can see in the bottom right there the arrow, and the arrow that is indicating my location is pointing to the northwest. So this is the northwest corner. If I go down here, this is the northwest corner of the monument right here. So that's at 651, 683. And, you know, before I spawn-proofed all this, there'd be a lot of guardians around. There's still a lot of drowned around, so I just have to remember that spot, 651, 683, write that down, and go run off somewhere and do math. Yes, there's many different ways you can find the spawning spots. Mine involves math. But don't let that scare you too much. It's really not that complicated. I simply take these coordinates, 651, 683, and then add to those coordinates plus 2, plus 13, plus 29, plus 45, plus 55. Add one of those numbers to each of the coordinates, and that will give you all of the locations. Really, I just need to find 9. So I can go in the X direction and say, okay, the first spot is 651, 683, plus 2, plus 2. 653, 685. That's the first spot. And then go plus 13, plus 2. So the original northwest corner plus 13, plus 2 is 664, 685. That's that spot. That's another spawning spot. And then go plus 29 plus 2. That gives you another spawning location. Then plus 45 plus 2. Then plus 55 plus 2. And then I do the same thing in the Z direction. Just run back here really quick. Again, plus 2 plus 2. And then we got plus 2 plus 13. Plus 2 plus 29. Plus 2 plus 45. And plus 2 plus 55. And I just write down those 9 pairs of numbers that I, used a calculator to add it up, add to numbers to the coordinates and get those 9 locations, then mark them, and then I can just make a grid. And draw lines out from each of those 9 spots, the 9 along that way, 9 along this way. Wherever they intersect, that's another spawning spot. And just like that, I can find all 25 spawning locations. And then I just have to fill in that space with solid blocks. Now, the guardians can spawn between Y31 and Y61, so I pretty much had to go all the way to the bottom of the ocean monument, filling it in. Initially, I used gravel or prismarine because that's what I had around, but when I went around to mine out the area to get more prismarine, I was afraid that I might break these pillars if they were made of gravel or prismarine, so I eventually just replaced all of those pillars, blocking off the spawn locations, with wood, so they're not going to break really easily as I'm mining all the other stuff around to get blocks. Then once I did that, I went around and made this box, and at the time it was still flooded, and just left it to Jewel to go on ahead and drain it all for me. It was very nice of her. So now, I'm going to make a guardian farm out of this. And I figured out, I'm working on Sim Distance 4. There's really no way I'm going to be able to find an AFK spot where I can stand where I can get all 25 spawning locations in range. It's really not going to work. But I found out just by blocking off one of these locations and flooding it, and then backing away to where, say, I AFK at right this middle spot right here, I should see Guardians start to spawn. Yep, there they go. It took them a minute, but yeah. You see Guardians starting to spawn there. Go ahead and get rid of these guys. If I start hitting them with my sword, they're just gonna spill out all over the frickin' place. So anyway, I figured out from doing that the outer areas, all of the spawning locations around the outside, are within range for Guardians to spawn in if I'm standing right here at this spot. But the 9 closest locations to me, including this one I'd be standing on, are too close and Guardians won't spawn there while I'm AFK here. So that leaves 16 locations I can use for this farm. That's more than enough. And I'm going to try and make this farm so that it'll be easier for others to use, and they can pick and choose how many of those spawning locations they want to use when they're using the farm. In order to get Guardians to spawn here, I need to fill it with water. I want to do that until it's all set up and ready to go. Any spawns in a structure that have specific spots that the mobs will spawn on, they will spawn on the northwest corner of the block. So on this space, they'll spawn on this corner right here. Now, that used to be the way it happened in Bedrock Edition for all mob spawns. Now they changed that so that it's the center of a block for most mob spawns. Structure spawns, however, are still the northwest corner. That means if I have a solid block to the north, to the west, or to the northwest, if there's a solid block, it will prevent mobs from spawning. And for that reason, I have a torch marking which way is northwest, and I want to make sure that the blocks around this that I fill in, anything on the north or west or northwest side, I want it to be a transparent glass block. Changed my mind. I'm gonna run it out that way. I'm gonna have to come up with a route to run all of the stuff. I'll put the water there, it's gonna flow that way. This trapdoor will keep the Guardians from getting out. Okay, now push that button and that will dispense water there and turn on that copper bulb. So now I know if the copper bulb is lit, there's water in here and this cell is going to be active. There, a torch there. Then 2 ticks. I got a nice little clock. Those pistons make a trident killer. Perfect. So this is what you would normally think of as a clock. Except for that torch, that redstone torch is extra. But that pulsing torch is going to power the redstone across the top of these pistons so that when the clock is working, the pistons move. Let me go get a couple of tridents. So now to activate the cell, I throw a trident at that piston. through a trident. This piston. Push this button to dispense water. Flip that switch, and that activates the trident killer. And then I go stand back at my AFK spot over here. And you see the Guardian spawning in, the Trident Killer taking care of them. The experiencing items are getting spat out. That is what I want to do. I do notice a problem with this, though. So obviously I'm going to need to make some kind of path to get all of the experience orbs and all of the drops. But a slight problem with this, I can't see that bulb. So I need to fix that. Oh, shoot, no. That's still wrong. Put the button there. There. Okay, now, if I step back here, the pistons don't get in the way. I can see the light. I want to see which cells are active from the AFK spot. Alright, that works. Now I just need to make 15 more copies of that for all the spawning spots around the outside. Well, that's the next step. There's more, but that's the next step. Well, I got about halfway through this thing and I had to take a break for a little bit because I had other stuff going on, so I have been away for a couple of days, but it's half finished. I have 8 Trident Killers around 8 of the 16 spawning points I want to use, and then I have these canals with water streams that's going to feed everything toward the center where I'll be AFK. There is a series of chests and hoppers to collect the drops. That is temporary. I'm going to make something more sophisticated later on. But I have a single switch here that I can switch to activate all the Trident Killers on this half. And you can see all these water streams here. So I drop anything in any of these water streams, and it will get swept over there and picked up in the hoppers. I go down here and collect that stuff. So like I say, that's a basic rudimentary collection system that I will fix later to make it more sophisticated and actually sort out items. But I just want to get this system working right now. The one line of redstone, what I've done with this is I put repeaters here that go into each one of these clocks. I consider the idea of having a single clock like near the middle and then just having redstone lines leading out to each of the Trident Killers. The problem is that redstone dust tends to be a source of a lot of lag. If you have long lines of redstone dust that are flashing on and off and on and off, that's going to create a lot of lag. And in fact, that's why I put repeaters going right into the block here where the each individual clock is, so that this redstone dust here is going to be flashing on and off with this clock, but none of the other redstone dust that leads to it is going to be flashing on and off. It's going to be continually on when each of these clocks are disabled, or continuously off when the clocks are enabled. But in other words, none of this redstone line is going to be flashing on and off. It'll either be all on or all off, and that should hopefully minimize the amount of lag here. Now, moving pistons is also a source of lag. Not much I can do about that. I've got Trident Killers, they're going to have moving pistons. So that's half of it done. I just need to go finish the other half and have water streams coming down this way to the collection system. And I can even connect it to the same switch to turn the Trident Killers on and off. Would it have been smarter to have all of these cells active all the time? I don't know. My thinking was that you know, maybe somebody else wanting to use this isn't going to want to throw out all 32 tridents they need to get all of the cells active. And this way they don't have to. 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. It looks like everything's lit up. It's all powered up and ready to go. Equip my looting 3 sword. Step into the AFK spot and engage. Actually, I want to stand right here. Now, it looks like the Guardians are targeting me. They're not actually going to hit me. And I am getting experience coming this way. And I am getting items coming this way. This way as well. Alright, I'll just hang out here for an hour and see what happens. I can see my experience levels already increasing, so looks good. Looks very good. This farm is crazy OP. It's been about an hour, but I had to stop a couple times because I noticed that I hadn't connected one of the units to the canal system, and I hadn't connected another unit to the switch here to turn on the trident killer, so I had to stop a couple times. But let's see what I'm getting for drops in here. Let's see what we got here. But for now, I'm going to pick up all the tridents, disable all these cells, and work on some kind of a collection system for this that will actually sort out the different drops. This project has been, at least by my standards, a pretty massive undertaking, but it's just about done. I've redesigned the collection system so that it does everything for me. Not only does it collect all the drops, but it will also automatically craft whatever type of prismarine that I want. I have 3 item sorters. Now these are special item sorters. I saw this design from a video by Slack Lizard. If I can find the link, I will put it in the description. And it's a super fast filter system that will collect the codfish, the prismarine crystals, and the prismarine shards. And I need to put another set over here just like that. The prismarine crystals and prismarine shards are then fed down into this crafter system here. Right now this is configured to craft sea lanterns. In fact, I'm going to flip that switch because what that will do is it will lock all the hoppers that feed into this. So if I want to rearrange what this is doing so that it crafts prismarine bricks or prismarine blocks, I can do that. I even have an input here for ink sacs, so that I could craft dark prismarine, assuming I had a source of ink sacs, which I don't right now. So I'm going to have prismarine crystals filtered out of that one. That chest over there will also have prismarine crystals. So we set that up. Position that minecart just right. So. Push those blocks down. This is similar to a collection system you might have seen in the past, except I'm using minecart hoppers instead of hoppers. So I put down an activator rail, and then a minecart hopper on top of that. That locks that in place, and then up above that I'm going to put a hopper minecart on a detector rail. Like so. Here. That will detect what's in the hopper minecart. The hopper minecart's kind of migrating out of the way there. Push it back on the track. Stay on there. So I gotta put a glass block there. This redstone torch here is going to power that activator rail, and that's going to lock this minecart with hopper so it doesn't pull anything from the minecart with hopper above it. power that redstone dust, powering this block. And that would turn off the torch, turning off the activator rail and allowing that minecart with hopper to pull items out of the minecart with hopper above it. And then this minecart with hopper below that pulls items from this one that's no longer locked and into these 4 hoppers, which feed into this chest. These filters aren't stacked side by side, so I'm not as worried about overflow. I'm putting 3, then 5, then 10, then 10 items in there. And in the first slot, the prismarine crystals. You see how quickly they get pulled out. So that's the setup, and that should yank all the items that are coming across this track, this packed ice track, very quickly. And hopefully not miss any. Alright, now I'm going to repeat that process for filtering out prismarine shards here. Wait, which is the shards and which is the crystals? Okay, crystals is what I sorted. Next I need to sort prismarine shards into this chest. It's working. Oh yeah, it's scooping up all the drops. At last it's done. The collection system, the auto crafting. It takes a little work to throw all the tridents to get it started, but wow, is it giving lots of levels and lots of prismarine. I'm gonna have to do something with all this prismarine at some point. Let's see if I think of something next time on Amon Chooses Divergence SMP.